Hello YouTube, welcome to a drama video. I haven't done a drama video in a very long time, but after Worlds yesterday, where EU went 3-0, congratulations to EU, we are piss-smurfing at Worlds, it's really nice to see. While I was watching Worlds, one of my friends was playing solo queue, and he met a guy named Toppe. And I know this guy because I have previously played with him and had some pretty bad experiences over the past season, 1.5 seasons maybe. And he was apparently still flaming, still being toxic, and had the same attitude as he would back in the day when I was playing with him. So, who is this guy Toppe? Well, he is a Masters AD carry in solo queue. He has these two accounts called Toppe ADC, which is currently sitting at Diamond 2. And then he has KITE Repeat, which is sitting at 109 LP. And he was playing solo queue, like he usually does, spamming 15 games a day, which is the reason why he has almost 2,000 games. And he was flaming one of my friends in solo queue while not really playing all that good. So I decided to look into it, and yeah, that's basically what this video is going to be about today. So, a little background story. So how do I know this guy? So this guy used to stream in English. He would play with no delay and no map cover, and he would constantly be spamming his Twitch chat in every single post-game lobby chat, as you can see right here, Toppe TV, and right here as well. He would just be doing this constantly, every single game. Which meant that people would start recognizing him because he would play on the account named Toppe, and his Twitch channel was Toppe TV. And he would start getting recognized because of his attitude in solo queue, where he would be very, very toxic, flaming people for essentially almost no reason. And he is infamous for saying 9x someone at the end of each and every game. And it would get to the point where people would see his name, they would go to his Twitch channel, they would target him, they would stream snipe him, etc., because they disliked him. And at a certain point, he simply had enough and decided that he didn't want that anymore. So he decided to name change his account, which is the reason why I haven't shown you guys a Toppe account. Well, that is because he's name changed that account to KITE Repeat, meaning that now you can no longer recognize that this is actually him. On top of that, he stopped streaming in English and switched to Danish, which I'm also assuming is because he got some type of backlash on the international language. And therefore he just switched to his local language. He also stopped posting his Twitch in post-game lobby chat because he didn't like getting recognized anymore in solo queue, and he felt like that would fix the entire thing. He's still streaming with no delay and no map cover, and sure, it's annoying having to deal with a player who is, or at least used to, constantly spam his Twitch channel, and then if you got him on your team, then the enemy team could simply just stream snipe, ghost you, watch the minimap without any delay, and it would be very, very difficult for a jungler as myself. So, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just really, really annoying, but it is his Twitch channel and he can do whatever he wants with it. So, that in itself is not really an issue. But his attitude, on the other hand, is not really acceptable in my opinion, and makes no sense, and I'll show you guys a few examples of what is his attitude like. So if we go here, what you will see is that this wave is slow pushing into the enemy, and the Soraka steps up, and here comes the Senna. Soraka is just trading a little bit. They push the wave slowly still. Actually just lasting it. Not sure why they should, in my opinion, just be hard pushing it. Then Senna hits a W, Caitlyn tries to trap, it doesn't connect. Sivir goes all in onto the Caitlyn, and Caitlyn dies, and then Senna also ends up dying. And you could say that, so just to talk about the play itself, it's not the best to try and go onto the Soraka, because Soraka should never die in a wave that is slow pushing into herself, unless if you get towered off, but that wasn't really the case here. So what you'll see is that he is playing without chat, but then he deliberately turns chat on just to flame his support. So he's typing, but why not dodge when you are this shit at support? You off-roll dog shit, smiley face. So he's completely been ignoring everything that's been happening in the chat for the first 7 minutes, and then as soon as something goes wrong, he instantly turns the chat on, flames, and then that's it. If I then go a little bit further into the game, he's actually also going to be flaming his jungler for picking set. So I will showcase that here. So he's typing, well, you're Viego main, whose first timing set. I assumed you wanted to lose. So he clearly doesn't like players who are autofilled, and he doesn't like people who are first timing, which is fair enough. I personally also don't like them. But let's see if he's actually a person who is dodging himself and never actually playing autofill, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense that he's flaming other people for doing the exact same thing. So if we go look up his account and we scroll down here, then we get to the point where we can see his positions. And on AD carry, he has 1,648 games with a 51.1% win rate, which is fair enough. That's his main role. Then we go to mid lane, and he has 87 games in solo queue with a 41.4% win rate. But that's a bit odd, because he's just been flaming 2 of his players, one for being autofilled and not dodging, and the other one for first timing a champion. But surely he's not a mid lane player if he's been maining AD carry for the past at least 2 seasons as far as I'm aware, and he has a 41% win rate on mid lane. That seems like a little bit of a double standard to me. Then we go to support. Maybe he's just unlucky when he gets mid lane. Support, he has 68 games with a 45.6% win rate. That's also really weird. So he's flaming his support for not dodging if he gets autofilled. But if he gets autofilled himself, he's also not gonna dodge if he gets support. So that is a little bit interesting. And then we go to top lane, same thing. Then we go to jungle, and that's actually the only autofill lane where he has an above 50% win rate, which is fair enough. But it doesn't really make sense to flame others for not dodging if you're not willing to do it yourself when you get autofilled. So, either don't flame people for being autofilled and realize that autofill is actually part of the game and it's very difficult to avoid this day in age. Or simply be a better example and at least not yourself have over 200 games of being autofilled and then flame others for when they are playing autofill. So, let's go to a different VOD, which is actually also from yesterday's stream, where we have 3 different instances of him showing his just typical solo queue behavior. So in this game, he ends up going 3-9, and the team score is 38-18 at 21 minutes, and it just seemed like the enemy team was just overall better across the board. And let's see what he is going to do here. And he's actually playing with Amazing. I'm sure some of you guys know Amazing from when he used to be a pro player. Amazing X right here, that's him. Let's see, he went 3-9, his support went 1-9, and he decides to report his Karthus for intentionally feeding, and to me, it did not seem like that Karthus was intentionally feeding. And he is very known for just reporting over and over and over and over again. We go into the same VOD, and we go to the next instance. Here, he's actually having a somewhat good game, at least a better game, like compared to the previous one, where he's 8-9. Ends up with being 9-9, but the team score is again 42-22.
I don't know.
So.
Det var et mærkeligt game, det her. Det er som om, at mit hold bare lige startede et eller andet speedrun duffs. Så det kunne få flere stuffs på kortest tid.
So, let's see what he's gonna do here.
Den stil lignede det i hvert fald. Så er vi bag til even.
And he types, I don't know, you guys speedrunning devs, or what is going on? no one really responds to him. I wouldn't have done that personally. Actually, never mind. He's just been muting also. He's playing without chat, so you can't even see people respond. And then he just decides to report his entire team for intentionally feeding and negative attitude and verbal abuse, which doesn't make any sense because negative attitude could maybe be FFing, but more often than not, it's actually chat related. And verbal abuse can only be chat related, but he doesn't have chat on. That's why every single player is muted. So how can he actually tell that they're either being negative or actually verbally abusing anyone? And on top of that, he is reporting everyone for just intentionally feeding when they're actually not intentionally running it down. Like, intentionally feeding means that the guy is deliberately trying to lose, meaning he's running into the enemy tower randomly on the map, or he's intentionally trying to lose by holding S in the middle of the lane, or staying AFK in a base, or running around in a circle for 2 minutes straight, something like that, right? But that's not really what's happening in these type of games. Let's go to another game. I actually think it's the very next game. So here they are pushing, trying to open the enemy base up, and he is hitting the inhibitor. They get mid-inhib. And then he's flaming the Elise for not resetting, which, I mean, she could have reset, they would still get the inhib. That's fair enough, a thing to be upset about. And then he's recalling this bush, and then he gets caught. And then he ends up dying. And the bot inhib is open. And instead of focusing on himself dying in this situation, being really, really bad, because we are kind of late into the game, 37 minutes, and death timers are 50 seconds. He instead is still focusing on the fact that Elise didn't base to defend that bot inhib. But he is still dead for another 30 seconds here. And the enemy team is on the mid inhib. Still another 15 seconds before he's alive.
Ej, var det tilt, bro. Vi taber der game. Sucks to suck.
Still another 5 seconds. The enemy team is currently on the Nexus. He spawns and the game is over. Now, what is he going to do after this instance? Is he gonna say, my bad team, I overstayed, I'm sorry I costed us the game? Or is he gonna focus on the fact that Elise did not reset?
Holy shit.
Well, let's see. I don't know. Elise, why didn't you just fucking reset after killing Kokmov XD? Keep in mind that Elise ended up with a score of 20-4. Most damage in the entire game. And he still has the Elise muted. At least they didn't report the Elise, but I would not have been surprised if he actually also reported the Elise. In a different game, if it was maybe me or someone else that he really disliked, then you would have gotten a report on top of that. So he's not very self-critical of his own gameplay. Now, he did make a video where he said that this is my strategy to reach grandmaster. And basically what he wanted to do is share what are his rules and his mindset towards reaching grandmaster. And he said that he wanted to take long breaks, consistent breaks, highlight reviewing, etc, etc. And then he said that he max wanted to play 10 games on Toppe ADC, which is this account right here. But he's not playing on this account anymore. And why is that? Well, it's because he dropped from Masters to D1. And then when he dropped, he realized that I have already a master account, so I'm just going to give up on this account, and then I'm going to play on the other account. And what ended up happening is that he just lost a bunch of games, and now he's Diamond 2 on that account. So he kind of gave up on that one, and instead said that he was going to play on Farm Kite Repeat. And he said that in this video that he was gonna play a max of 10 games, except if he won 10 games in a row. Well, yesterday he decided to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games, and there's actually a little bit more. I think these games are actually included, so I think it's 14 or 15 games that he ended up playing. So he's not even following his own rules towards trying to reach Grandmaster. Now, the rules in themselves are not a bad thing, and I think having a specific mindset and rule set for yourself in order to try and climb is not bad. But if you're not following your own advice, it doesn't really make too much sense. Same thing for the fact that he has chat disabled. That's a very good thing, because then he's not getting tilted by other people's tilt, and he's not contributing to the fact that people will tilt. But then he just enables the chat again to flame someone, and they can't even respond back. So you can't communicate with this guy. You're just gonna get flamed for the entire time, and then at the end of the game, you're most likely just gonna get reported. So I wanted to take a look at, well, where does this flame come from? Is this guy actually just a very good player where his teammates are not as good as him? And if that is the case, then I can maybe understand why that he is upset, that if he's putting a ton of time and effort into winning solo queue games and his teammates are not putting in the same time and effort into it, then I can understand his frustrations. Not saying that it's justified, but saying I can understand where he's coming from. So I decided to take a look at his two accounts, KITE Repeat and Toppe ADC, and compare them to my accounts Kami and Temp. So I decided to take a look at MVP and aces and win rate. Now, I understand that MVP and aces is not the very best metric to see if someone carried, and that these numbers can get, let's say, influenced by stats that are not really game deciding, but it will give more often not, in my opinion, an idea of who was, at least if not the main carry, maybe a top 2 carry, or at least had a very good game compared to his teammates in both a winning and a losing game. So in the last 20 games, I had 9 MVP or aces on Kami and 6 on Temp, and he had 2 on KITE Repeat and 4 on Toppe ADC. In terms of win rate, I had 60 and 55, and he had 40 and 26. Then we take a look at the last 40 games, and it's 15 and 13 towards me and 5 and 9 towards him. And then he hasn't been playing on Toppe ADC for any more than these 40 games in 2 months, because the account dropped and he kind of gave up on that account. So now we can only take a look at KITE Repeat. So MVP or ace in the last 60 games, 19 and 22, and he had 7. And this is actually despite me having a negative win rate on one account and a positive win rate on another account. So even though I am losing in some instances more than he is, I will still be performing better, at least according to the OP to GG score. And I'm sure if we compare it to other similar websites in terms of this performance score, it's also going to be higher on average. Then we take a look at 80 games, and it's 28 and 26 compared to 9. And then in the last 100 games, it is 39 and 29 compared to 13. Whereas the win rate is 51 and 53 for me and 52 for him. So we have roughly the same win rate, but in terms of performance in the games that are winning and or losing, it seems like I am just performing better. Now, you could say that jungle, generally speaking, as a role, is just better at getting MVP or aces or more broken, but I don't necessarily agree, because jungle has been nerfed for at least 2 or 3 seasons straight in terms of experience, while bot lane has been getting slightly more buffs in terms of XP, getting slightly more experience. And on top of the fact that bot lane is just a focused meta. Basically, bot lane is more often than not strong side on the map. And you could say that maybe me as a jungler, understanding that bot lane is a strong side, I play for my bot lane more often and get rewarded for it in terms of having a good score and getting more MVP and aces, compared to a game where he's playing AD carry and he doesn't have control over his jungler. Well, that could be true, but he can also just win lane on his own by playing lane dominant champions. And if that's not the case, well then actually post laning phase, AD carries are still strong in the sense that at 25 and 30 and 35 minutes, the longer the game goes, typically AD carries gets stronger and stronger, except for champions like Draven and Kalista and a few other AD carries. But generally speaking, his champion pool scales quite well. So he's not performing as well, and he's not winning nearly as much, and he's not achieving as much because he's not peaking, and he's not even close to grandmaster. He's not even halfway there, and currently he's 500 LP away from reaching it. So I don't understand why this guy is flaming. Now, that's not the only issue I have with this, because he did also say that he's a coach, which is why his name is also Coach Toppe. And the issue that I have with this is that I actually looked into it, and he did a free coaching session to someone, which is very nice of him to do. And he coached this guy who was platinum 3 with a 57% win rate on NA. And he then went through an OPG review and some in-game settings and whatnot. My opinion, not something that is that important to focus on when it comes to coaching, but that's just his way of coaching, and it is what it is. And then he made another video where we didn't even get to see his coaching. They just talked for a very long time about his most recent games and didn't actually go through any of them. We didn't get to see any of it. So we don't even know how he's coaching when it comes to AD carry. Now, if we compare his stats from back in, I'm assuming this is February. He was platinum 3 with 57% win rate with 200 games played. This is the guy that he coached. He's now sitting at platinum 4, 500 games in with a 50% win rate. And if we then take a look at, well, it was right here that he was platinum 3. So this is February month. He dropped a little bit. Then he dropped to platinum 4. And he's been platinum 4 ever since. So clearly the advice that he gave this guy didn't help him. And actually even worse, it probably made him play even worse, which is the reason why he dropped to platinum 4. And this guy could probably multiple times have been at risk of losing platinum 4 to demote down to diamond 1, or gold 1, sorry. Now, this guy didn't pay for the session, so you can't really complain about the fact that the advice that he got didn't help him, and maybe he just didn't understand what was being taught. But it seems very suspicious that you are teaching a player that plays the same role as you, and you cannot help him climb just 100 LP in Platinum ELO on a region that is worse than EU West, with a very similar champion pool to your own. I then went further into this coaching route that he apparently has, and it doesn't seem like he's been coaching more than 20 people, as not as far as I can tell. And that seems very weird to be calling yourself a coach if you haven't even coached 20 players, and you haven't even coached in what I would say is high elo, so Masters Plus. And some of the students are not even seeing results in elos such as Plat, even on the same role that you are playing. And then he's also been coaching top lane apparently, but I've never seen the guy play top lane, and the player is not really, from his stats that we saw previously, not that good of a top laner, at least in Masters. That's not to say that he can't win on top lane in Platinum and Diamond, he probably can, but it seems a bit weird to be coaching something that he doesn't really have any experience on himself. So what do I want from this video? Well, I want this guy to actually realize that what he's doing is very, very weird, and I don't understand where this is coming from. Like, I can't possibly understand where he's coming from. It doesn't make any sense. My opinion, he's not that good of a player. He has not really achieved anything significant, and he just makes a lot of bold statements and have a lot of double standards in solo queue in terms of how he can treat other people compared to how he should be treated. And I just simply don't agree with him. And the people that hear flaming some of those players I actually know, and I've known for multiple years, and I've seen them achieve greater things than both me and him have, and that just doesn't really make sense. So what I wanted to do with this video is I wanted to be proven wrong. So there's about 30 something-ish days left. There's like 5 weeks left of the season. And I'm gonna give this guy 2 options. He can either focus on solo queue, and then he can reach grandmaster, which he's so confident in that he can reach because he is calling a lot of master players shit. And he's saying that compared to the average master tier AD carry, I am just so superior compared to so many others. Well, then let's see that. Let's see you reach grandmasters. Currently grandmaster is like 640 LP, probably 650 at this point. So it shouldn't be impossible for you to get because you have played over 1,800 games on one account, and if you combine the other account, it's probably closer to 2,500 games. So you should have reached it already at this point, but hey, you have another 5 weeks to reach it. Now, if he doesn't want to reach grandmaster in solo queue for whatever reason, then I know that he also did tryouts. Now, I don't know what league he was doing tryouts for, but I'm assuming it's the NLC, because I would be very surprised if he has an international presence when he is suddenly streaming in English to Danish. So I'm assuming it's the NLC, and I am very confident in the fact that no NLC Division 1 team will accept a master tier AD carry for their main roster or even as a substitute. So I'm assuming it's either the NLC Division 2 or Division 3, which is respectable enough. I think people in NLC Division 2 and 3 are between High Diamond and Grandmasters. So the competition is somewhat even, I would say. So I want him to, if not reaching Grandmaster and solo queue, join a team in whatever league he got the offer in or the tryouts for. And since he feels like he's such a good AD carry, it shouldn't be a problem of him joining a team, because a lot of teams would definitely want a good AD carry, and he thinks that he's a good AD carry, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then I want him to have a respectable split where he is winning more than he's losing. It can be just overall in terms of the game, but it can also just be laning phase, because he thinks that he's much better than an average master tier AD carry, so he should be able to win even in laning phase, depending on the matchup, those early games. And it shouldn't really be a problem for him because he is also a coach, right? So he can just coach his team and teach them how to play around him, and then they should win because he has experience with that, apparently. So that's kind of what we want to see. So either he's Grandmaster or join whatever team and have a respectable split. Probably gonna be tough right now to do, but you could do it maybe next season. I'm not going to be following up on the journey because I simply have better and other stuff to do. But I wanted to make this video because I find it very incredible that over the course of 12 months, maybe even 18 months, the guy literally has not changed his attitude and or improved in terms of LP despite playing so much more than the average player in this elo. And also because I feel like he's saying a lot of stuff that is just doesn't make any sense. So that's basically the end of the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one, which will not have any drama in. So yeah, see you guys.